The challenge for today is to sort out this bath area because, as I've said a number of times, this is probably the most confusing thing I've ever had to design because there's a lot going on. There's making sure everything is perfectly in line with the skylight, in line with a window, and then you're working backwards because the average depth of a bath is between 40 and 50 centimeters, and the base of this bath is going to be an entire large format tile, which is something that I have absolutely no idea how to do. I mean, I've spoken to tilers and they themselves haven't actually ever built an entire bath from scratch. Turns out there's a little bit of a reason why people don't do it, is because it's quite complicated, because obviously the average depth of a bath is 40 centimeters deep. So you've got to work back from that, because the build up to get to that finished base level of that tile will involve tile backer board, damp proofing, 18 millimeters of plywood. Then beneath that is going to be a whole sort of framework construction to make sure it's properly solid, a bit like a normal floor joist setup, but a little bit more heavy duty, because obviously where you're stepping down into the bath, there's going to be a large weight transfer because you're stepping down. All of that weight's going to go onto that particular corner, which, considering this is going to be one large format tile, if it isn't fully supported, that could create cracking. Now, beneath that frame construction, there needs to be a solid base for the timber to connect to. However, the timber cannot be connected to it because if there is movement within the tiny house through means of expansion, hot and cold, slamming a door, whatever, if that timber was connected directly down to, say, a concrete slab, that movement in the tile would meet a resistance and therefore cause a cracking or a break in the tile. And not only is that going to cost money to repair, but it can also cause a load of other issues because there would be a leak and that would cause even more damage. And then not only that, you've got to think, well, this is a bath. If it is directly connected to a concrete slab, well, where's the insulation? There's going to be a huge amount of heat loss, and that boiling water in the bath is then going to become very cold water quickly if it is not properly insulated. Then on top of that, I've got to consider the fact that because this is a bath and a shower, well, the water needs to flow to an area which it can drain away from, and therefore it cannot be a concrete slab unless I put the drainage pipe underneath the concrete slab. And as you can see, it is very confusing, and thank you for all the comments and messages. It's been really helpful. I almost can guarantee this is not going to work 100% perfect the first time, but as with everything, I am prepared to fail. It's all a learning process. The good news is all I've got to really worry about today is digging and getting down to the level that I need to. And remember, if you're wondering how do you know how far down you should be digging, well, you've got to set the depth of the bath you want, then you look at the floor height for the rest of the bathroom, and then you work basically from that, and then you add the depth of all the materials. Now, for the wood framework, I'm thinking of using 4x2. The reason why is I can get away with using 4x2 because it is not going to have a very large force going over a span. If you don't know what a span is, it's just the distance between two supports. For example, on this tiny house, it is 3 meters wide, and therefore I've got to go with, I think I use 6x2 or 7x2 because that is the size timber that is needed so that there isn't any flex over said distance. Now, if you don't know what size timber to buy, you just look up a span table. And the reason I can get away with using 4x2 for the base of the bath is because I'm going to have so many supports. So I have bought 12 concrete blocks, and they come in various different densities. You can get high strength, medium strength, and then you can get aerated blocks that are normally used for walls, I think. There's a whole load of options. I've just gone with medium dense blocks because they were the cheapest, and also you would normally use them for an internal wall, so they're going to be plenty strong enough to support these beams. And the sort of technique that I'm going to be using is something that seems a bit like a bodge job. If you don't know what bodge job is, it's just kind of like a temporary fix, but it actually works incredibly well. And they are concrete pillars. Now, I saw some people when I was doing the framework for this tiny house who were saying, Chris, why aren't you adding cement between the concrete block pillars that are basically forming the foundation of which the frame of the tiny house sits on? And the answer is because there is no horizontal force acting on the pillars. It's completely vertical, and the tiny house probably currently weighs 5 to 10 tons as it stands. So that force is meaning that it's all going vertically, and therefore there is just no need for cement between the blocks. Now in this example, what I'm going to be doing is a little bit questionable. I can't be bothered to get any ton bags of hardcore delivered or anything like that, so I'm just going to use some gravel from the parking area, create a bit of a base, and then set the blocks on postcrete. If you're thinking, Chris, this isn't very good, you're completely right. 100% there's definitely a better way to do it. It's just for right now, this meets the needs of what I'm doing, and this is a complete test. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm sending it and seeing what happens, and that has kind of been my life motto for everything. Now the reason I've gone for 12 concrete pad stones is because I thought that would result in a very small distance in which the timber has to cross, and therefore there won't be any flex in the 4x2. And this small 4x2 frame is going to develop. There's going to get more 4x2 added to it, and then it will be lined with plywood, tile backer board. And the tile backer board, I'm actually thinking will act as a little bit of insulation. I don't think it will do that great of a job, but I think it will do enough. And I've just had an idea. I just thought about the London project, and the main bathroom, that shower tray is like a 1.4 meter shower tray. And I'm just thinking if there's a way that I could buy a shower tray and use that for the base of the bath, but modify it so that the steps somehow go down onto it. I'm gonna have a little bit of a think about that. That is actually a good trick that I have done for years, which is instead of creating something completely from scratch, it's often easier to modify than start from scratch. As a slight example, it's not really the best example, but these concrete blocks are sort of a version of that, because initially it's like, oh yeah, I'll make a concrete slab, and then I go, well, that's going to need a ton bag of gravel delivered. I won't be at the tiny house when that is actually able to be delivered. Also, there's a lot of time element. Well, why don't I just buy already set concrete, and therefore using these blocks as the sort of pillars to support the bath, I think will work really well. And by the way, if you are thinking, Chris, I don't think that's going to give enough support, just remember that the entire house is sat on these concrete blocks as it stands, and it works brilliantly. This is a very well practiced thing, especially in America, and you don't see it very often in England, but you get these cardboard tubes that then go down into the hole that you've dug. You then pour into the cardboard tube, and then once the concrete has set, you just unwind the cardboard tube. And that is why concrete pillars have those sort of spiral striation patterns within them. It is just the unrolling of the cardboard. Now when it comes for the drainage from this bath shower area, I want the plug hole to be in the far corner, and my thought process for sorting that is to worry about that in the future, because as of right now I need to just focus on getting all of this sorted. And I'm actually pretty happy with how this is going. I think it is going to work. You've just got to bring it back to the reality and know that because you do everything yourself, you save an absolute fortune. You really do. And the example I always give you is you can buy all the ingredients to build a bathroom, all the tile backer board, the tiles, the mortar, the time invested. You can buy the laser, the diamond blades. Every single element of your bathroom, you can take it all to the top floor of your house, chuck it out the window, repeat that twice, and then on the third attempt of buying it all again, get it right, and that price will cost you less than if you had got someone else in to do it. And if you're thinking, yeah, but I don't know how to tile, well, neither did I when I first did it, but I figured it out, and I've also already written a newsletter on how to do it. So if that is something you're interested in, just Google Have Some Vision Substack or click the link in the description, and I explain it all to you perfectly, and a load of other things like side hustles and everything about my world of how I make money and was able to leave a day job that I despise. So no excuses, sign up now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you tomorrow in a bit.